What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 80 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Kyle Roscoe, and what a fun card we have for you guys coming up. We are covering the Late Pick5 at the Belmont at the Big A for Saturday, May 25th, including the Grade 2 Pennine Ridge Stakes for 3-year-olds on the turf. It's actually a very fun card, lots of competitive races. Hopefully you guys are ready, as this is going to be, this is the basis of a speed cap. Honestly, I'll be completely straight up on the front end here. These PPs literally came out at like 6:20 p.m. Central Time. We are handicapping with like 30 minutes. Obviously, I went and my co-host, we went as deep dive as we could for these races, but not a whole lot of leeway going on here. So hopefully we can continue to provide good analysis. Well, we will provide good analysis for you guys, but obviously just base in mind, it is a speed cap. And if you want final picks for Saturday, follow me on Twitter at APRoscoeK, and you will get a full grid of every single race at Belmont the Big A on Saturday, including best bets and live long shots. So please go give me a follow over there. As you see scrolling on the bottom screen as well, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the like button, and please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. It's the easiest and best way to help us out, as not only does it show us that you guys are enjoying the video, but also that you guys are helping us push this video out into the YouTube algorithm and hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. Also, took a look at the analytics. Only 46% of people that watch this show every single day are not subscribed or are subscribed. 54% of you that watch this show on a daily basis in the past month and a half are not subscribed. And why? If you're already coming back for the videos anyway, why aren't you subscribed? Go down below the video player. Please hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, as you see scrolling right now, you see the next show is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, episode 352 of Picks and Ponies here in the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Calbred weekend at Santa Anita Park on Saturday, May 25th, as they have I believe it's either all stakes or it's 5 Calbred stakes on Saturday at Santa Anita Park. So tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Come back for that show. Not only do we post every single video and podcast on here on YouTube, we also do it through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor if you're more of an audio listener, or wherever you get your podcasts. But the main three we use, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. Matt Miller's new book, A Better Way of Thinking.com. If you haven't gotten yours, get yours today. It's a fantastic memoir about everything betting strategy, everything horse betting, everything sports betting, and of course, great stories in life. A Better Way of Thinking by Matt Miller. Go get yours today. You can either scan the QR code on screen there or go to abetterwayofThinking.com. Also, going back through the HHH Racing Podcast Power Picks, guys, still over 600 picks, still well in the profit for almost 3 years now at this point, and it's only $4 a weekend. $15.99 a month is how Patreon bills it. You'll get every single Saturday, you'll get 2 full tracks, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on a given weekend. The Power Picks have got you covered. And again, for only $4 a weekend, one of the most inexpensive and most profitable tip sheets on all of YouTube for almost 3 years running. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast for that. And if you want to see previous editions of those said Power Picks, or just want to learn anything about us, HHHRacingPodcast.com is the place to do so. So, guys, I will bring my co-hosts on right now, and then we'll take a look at the chat and see who's here. And then we will move on, as we have a special guest as well for the first race of this sequence, which is the feature, the Grade 2 Pennine Ridge. Someone I might know might have a piece of a horse in that race. So we'll bring him on with the rest of my co-hosts, and then we'll get right into the show. Patrick is having audio issues, so once he gets back in here, we'll bring him on. But from the West Coast, now at the University of Kentucky, and West Coast bias himself, Noah Maher, and the guest of said podcast. You might know him from a special episode on Thursday nights, but again, we're going to bring him on to talk about a fantastic horse that he has a piece of in the Pennine Ridge. Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul from the Saratoga Special. How you doing?
I'll be in and out like the hamburger joint, Kyle.
like the Hamburglar, in and out. Like I said, I love it. But like I said, Paul, I wanted to bring you on because there is a horse in the Pennine Ridge that you've been high on. I actually forgot this horse was 2 last year when he was running, and now obviously the Pennine Ridge is only for 3-year-olds. So hopefully, he should be able to get a good run in there. But let's bring up the Equibase right now for that race. Like I said, hopefully Patrick comes back here so he can continue to talk about this race as well. The Equibase is right there, guys. It's a field of 7 for the start of the Late Pick5. The race number 7, the Pennine Ridge Stakes, a grade 2, going 1.1 miles on the turf, like I said, for 3-year-olds. Field of 7 with, obviously, we don't have morning lines yet. They'll come out probably either on Thursday night or Friday. And obviously, then you can base ours off the morning line. Who's the morning line favorite? Probably going to be Legend of Time, Appleby, even though he didn't run too well on Derby Day, bringing him back pretty quick here. Royal Majesties for Belmont, and then you also have Triple Espresso for IRAD, which will take a lot of money as well. And I'll bring off this banner right now, and I'll bring on our banner picks for the Pennine Ridge Stakes, the feature on Saturday's card. And you'll see 2 of us are going with Legend of Time, but Patrick is going with the number 7, Triple Espresso. But Paul, I'm going to go to you first here. The number 6, St. James the Great, is the horse that was I aforementioned before that you have a small piece of. Was running really well last year. Ended up breaking his maiden at Laurel, ran well at Colonial. And, first time off the layoff, didn't run that well, but still behind Fulmineo, who obviously came back to flatter that form on Preakness Day. So hopefully second off the layoff will be the key for St. James the Great, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like there were going to be 5 horses in this race, by the way. I think they beat the bushes a little bit and got 2 more. But this is the first time I'm really looking at it. It came up pretty tough. I would just say this, that, there's an 83 buyer in there somewhere. One of the 2 Chads, or they're just 2?
Yeah,
2
Chads.
2. But the rest of them were all in the 70s. I mean, our guy ran a 72 last time. I will tell you this, and this is a huge step up in class, but if you go back and watch that race, he could not have had a worse trip. It was, I don't want to pick on jockeys, but it was a very unaggressive. Just look at the fractions and where he had him. He is the 9 horse
right here in the middle.
Yes.
Here. So I'll skip ahead.
And he's kind of, he's kind of in touch with it, and then he gets taken back, and he ends, as you know, guys, the turf races, when they're this bunched together, you may have trouble. So I mean, he did, you saw right there, he wanted to swing ride. Now he's back inside, and he is moving a little bit down toward the rail. All in all, off a layoff with the trip he had, certainly no complaints. And a good point by you, Kyle. Seeing Fulmineo came back and ran really well. I mean, Neat, who he ran with and got beat by at Laurel the first time, is turned into a good horse. You see some horse. So look, you're going to see probably 15-1 when you do see the morning lines. So we have no delusions of grandeur here, but you know what? You never know. I just think it's funny, Kyle, when I'm looking at the PPs and seeing 2 Chad Browns, an Appleby, a Godolphin Appleby, a Mott and Junior Alvarado, a Pletcher and Irad, and some schmuck from Boston has a tiny piece of a horse running against all of them. So pretty good. I'm hoping to get down there. I'm not sure. I got a lot going on at this time of year. So, but it's a confident move by Kerry Bryan, the trainer. She was looking for a 3-year-old race. And as you pointed out, Kyle, this race is restricted to 3-year-olds. Castellano's been booked for like 3 weeks. His agent, once she reached out to him, he wanted on this horse. Okay. So that's obviously a plus, getting Javier in a New York race. So, look, like I said, you got to deal with the Chad Army and Appleby and everyone else. But, You know what they say, you can't win it if you're not in it. So it'll be fun either way. And, I think a bright future, to your point, Kyle. He had a pretty good 2-year-old year, ran 2 really good races at the end of the year. Maiden win was very impressive. And, as they say, off the layoff, terrible trip, way back in a slow pace. I think he certainly has a chance to get a much better trip, and I think 1 1/8 is right where he wants to be.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I agree with. And look who he's losing to. Fulmineo, like you said, neat Fulmineo again, and the great, in Shards, the best horse.
There you go.
So,
that's right.
There's a lot of good racing for him. Like you said, the one time where he doesn't go up against monsters, he ends up winning by almost 5, and it looks. I don't know what the pace is going to play out, Paul. It looks like on paper, Legend of Time just should be out in front by himself. But if this race is 200K, even a minor placing for St. James the Great would still, above all else, pay the bills and continue hopefully moving forward.
Yeah, the pace, I'm just looking at it now. The pace is definitely a concern. It doesn't look like it's – but I also think – and if you watch the beginning of the last race, he broke okay in that race and had an opportunity to be closer. And I just think on that particular day, you just needed to be closer. So, I'm sure Mr. Castellano's in the Hall of Fame, so I'm sure he has the ability to watch replays just like the rest of us. And
right.
My hunch would be that he would be a little more forward in this race.
He was only 5 back of a 46-4 pace at Laurel in 1 1/8. So he obviously has the ability to be closer. And if he's closer, I obviously think that will more benefit him than hurt him. But Paul, like I said, I appreciate you hopping on.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yes. Yeah.
You got anything? I know, like I said, these PPs literally just came out. Like I said at the start of the show, they're full fresh. So hopefully, I would ask you for your a good opinion, but sadly, no one's looked at these cards, let alone.
Yeah, I just looked at that race for the first time. I got the PP sent around about a half hour ago by some of the partners. Yeah. And, the horse is bought by the Serio brothers in Maryland, primarily. Out of the sale that just concluded at Timonium, this horse was bought in that sale last year as a 2-year-old in training sale. And I was just kind of screwing around online to see who bought the Catholic Boys, and stumbled into a story that they have a similar story. Their dad was a huge Catholic Boy fan, and
awesome. Yeah,
they passed away, had cancer, and it was my story. My dad, I bet Catholic Boy at the Breeders' Cup. Literally the day after my dad passed away. So I just reached out to them and told them the story and said, "If you got anything left?" And they said, "Yeah, we got this left. If you want it, you can have it." So I said, "Well, okay."
There you go.
So there's my first Catholic Boy, and I think I just bought into a small piece of another one yesterday. So
there you go, man. That's the best. And for those that don't know that story, it's a fantastic story for Paul, and he's told it many times on the podcast, and then you can find it if you go back a little ways. But Paul, like I said, good luck with St. James the Great. Hopefully, like I said, he runs. If he doesn't win, hopefully he runs for a good placing and can just improve and continue to move forward for you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to get him to Saratoga, Kyle. That's
right.
That one I won't miss.
Yeah, no,
if that happens.
Dude, hey, especially winning at Saratoga, that's always the ultimate goal of any horse owner, let alone us that just own small pieces. But good luck, Paul. I'll let you go.
Hey guys, I'll be watching. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I'll talk to you.
Hey, Paul.
And so we just wanted to bring on Paul because he owns a little piece of St. James the Great, guys. So that's just it's a really cool story, especially it's with his dad and the Catholic Boy. It's just a fantastic story. For hopefully St. James the Great runs well. Noah, I'm going to go to you because in this race I showed the time for him. Legend of Time, to be frank, he didn't run very well at all. And that race, that race was, in my opinion, probably not. It could turn out to be really good. It didn't look that good on paper to me. With Chikari winning by the longest shot in the field at 47-1 under a perfect trip from Rispoli. You got horses. Legend of Time finished 5th, albeit with a hot pace. Gugino was way far back, finished 4th. and then all the other ones that were bet down were nowhere. So, I mean, noted a Brumar came back to run already. Yeah. And he ran third. So he ran fine. He ran behind Fulmineo. So, it's just these horses run back very well. And obviously, if Appleby's running this horse back really quick, this horse probably is ready to go and probably didn't lose too much in the American turf.
Yeah, that weekend just seemed a little bit disappointing for the Appleby barn.
Yeah.
Especially in that race, because we had talked about it. We had gone over it. All of those Euros horses in that race, none of us were really thrilled with. So that the Legend of Time was just kind of the horse where, he doesn't have to be great to get it done. And he really was not. I mean, he sat a perfect trip. It just seems like, he can't be as bad as he was last time. And I know we haven't really been able to look at these PPs too long, but looking at the time form at the first look, if he's got that set up, I like my pick even more.
I like my chances with Appleby and Rosario on the front end by a mile in a mile and an eighth race at Aqueduct. My gosh. Yeah. Like I said, if you guys are just joining in, these PPs literally came out about an hour ago. So we handicapped for you guys, albeit a speed cap, and we're kind of going through it as we are right now. So if you guys have anything you see on the screen, any picks you want to throw out, any information you want to throw out, feel free to throw them in the chat. Like I said, we're seeing these for the second time, third time at this point, going back through these races. Patrick, I'll go to you next. Number 7, Triple Espresso. Ran in the Jeff Ruby last time, which was an interesting move, I thought, for Pletcher. Ended up, Endlessly was much the best that day, not even close. Then you have other horses that West Saratoga and Seize the Gray. I mean, you want to talk about a horse that's really improved off that. Seize the Gray is pretty damn good. So off of that, you now Triple Espresso is the one to run back from that race. The only concern for me would be the pace, but obviously makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the concern, is the pace, like you said. I find it interesting that, Endlessly, that horse obviously runs in the Derby, and we were hearing Michael McCarthy talk about how he thought that horse was a turf horse through and through. So I was, I'm kind of going off the angle of I think that this horse will improve again, and it'll be on the turf, has improved every step of the way for, big connections. And I'm just hoping this horse is going to be able to run into some sort of pace, because, this is going to be tough. You have to think one of the Chads is going to be forwardly placed, especially the one from the inside, like you talked about. Just like I said, I think Triple Espresso, I'll take a couple shots of it before the race, and hopefully we can get this horse home.
Yeah, and like I said, Noah, you don't have this horse anywhere. I'm assuming it's because of the pace scenario, or do you have something else that you don't like about Triple Espresso?
Well, like I said, I didn't necessarily, see the time for him, but just looking on paper and seeing where he comes from and his tactics in races like this, I think it does make it a little hard on him. Triple Espresso has always been the one that's been hard to trust for me. It took him a little while to break his maiden. And then, he ran in some really nice races, but just ran kind of evenly. I could be wrong. It's definitely possible that Triple Espresso could improve, but with the setup that he's going to get and the price that I think he's going to be, I think maybe one that I'm against a little bit. I'll just go into the two horses that I have real quick. White Palomino, I actually almost threw this horse in on top. I think he's a little interesting just because the numbers are a little lower than some in the field. I think he can improve. I remember watching his debut race. He's a little goofy, but it looks like he's become a little more professional. Even though he got a perfect trip at Keeneland, I like the way that he did it. Finished well. Looks like the mile and eighth won't be a problem. And Pratt hops aboard. So if you're looking for a horse, and you're looking for Chad and Pratt at a decent price, I think this might be it.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. As you guys can see by my top 3. The 3 is the other Chad horse, Risk Tolerance. Ran well, got a good number, but again, sat that perfect pocket trip. And good horses make good trips, so these horses could be very good. I'm debating actually taking out Triple Espresso and putting one of them in. I don't have either one of them. I just thought they both benefited from a complete perfect trip last time, which they both did. But again, if they're sitting that pace behind, or they're sitting that trip behind Holton, not a lot of pace, I think one of them could definitely hit the money. So again, if you want my full picks, after I do a deep full dive on this entire card at AP Roscoe K on Twitter would be the place. to do that. I would definitely be considering putting one of these horses in here, whether it's Risk Tolerance or White Palomino. I believe we covered. Did we cover every single one? Royal Majesty is the one I have in second. The only one that I think could hit the board. I don't think this horse nearly has to be as far back as he has been. That race at Keeneland with a decent trip, granted, did it very, very well that day. And now coming back into this race, hopefully could sit mid-pack, get a first jump on horses like Triple Espresso, run somewhere in the money. I think with a continuously progressing horse, fourth time for Belmont out of the ship over from Newmarket, I think can continue to improve, especially as this horse was closing on a Gulfstream Park turf course, which is not very conducive to it late in the meet. I'm going 2-5-7. Patrick's going 7-2-3. Both Charlie and Noah are going 2-1-3. Also, welcome to Charlie. Welcome, Charlie, to the podcast, considering that the man can't get technology to work. What's up, man?
Not much. I'm hoping that I can get through this entire show without my new Wi-Fi crashing. My computer was making me wait as long as possible, but, at least I'm here.
Yeah, no, at least you are here. And like I said, shout out to everyone in the chat. I know it was kind of a different start to the show with Paul bringing on, but I wanted him, like I said, to bring him on to talk about St. James the Great and all that story with him. But the Pennine Ridge, guys, is the complete best race on the card. There's a lot of horses. Honestly, I don't think it's necessarily a complete, Appleby and move on. I mean, the horse is coming back in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, is going to need to run better than he did that day. But with the setup, based on the time form that we looked at, I think if he's at all ready in Appleby, I think I have my trust in Appleby here, but if he's ready off 3 weeks, that horse looks by far the horse to beat in that race with the setup that he has. Switching over to race 8, guys. Race 8 is an allowance race for 80K, a mile on the 16th on the turf again for fillies and mares 3-year-olds old and up. This is a New York bred race, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is. Race full field of 11. Morning line favorite, guys. You guys can take your guess. We don't know for sure until we get these morning lines out, which of course we do not have as we were handicapping this on Wednesday. The picks you guys see on the bottom of the screen, I'm the odd man out here. I'm going with number 3, Stella Mars. Mike Maker, I believe, second off the long layoff. Everyone else is going with the number 2, Smoky Eyes. But since I'm the host, you guys get to go first. I don't get to tell you guys why you were wrong right now. Noah, I'll go to you first for obvious reasons here. This horse is owned by Resolute Racing, trained by Bill Mott. Again, second off the trainer switch, second off the layoff, and is run best on turf.
Yeah, she just seems like a logical one here. I honestly don't know too much about her, but just looking at how she's run, she had a pretty long campaign at the end of her 3-year-old year. She ran some really nice races. I don't actually know if they were running on the turf at Aqueduct on April 25th. I don't know if they had gone back to the turf at that point because it seems a little weird that they stayed on the dirt. But, she gets back to the grass here. She seems like the class of the field, and she's got some numbers to run back to. The one worry is, it's a one-time winner, and she's finished second 4 times. So in any race, especially a race like this, where I think she'll probably be the favorite, one not necessarily to trust, but I think, again, she's a class of the field.
Pat, go ahead and feel free to add anything on you want to do. Like you said, I mean, she's ran great. She's ran great before. She has a lot of numbers in the mid-70s, which is definitely, I think, good enough to win this race. I'll pull up the time form here, guys, just so you guys can get a visual on it. It has a fast pace denoted with the 2 and the 3 both sitting on the inside, what looks to be pretty good trips, considering that the 1 is going to gun for the lead most likely. So the 2 and the 3 are going to have a path to the rail. The 2 will probably be ahead of the 3, Pat.
Yeah, and the 7, who I have in second, actually, Smoking Hot Kitty, I think, she's on the time form, supposed to get the lead. I'm hoping, this horse did run prior on turf a while back at Laurel in, lower ranked races. So we'll see. But the last 2 have been pretty impressive. I mean, the horse won by 9 lengths. I know it was a claiming 25, but the horse did do well with Kendrick aboard, and Kendrick on the lead is always dangerous. So I'm hoping, this distance isn't too far, and the Sire's Kitten's Joy, who were always great on the turf. So I think
Yep.
she should appreciate this, and she's in good form right now at 5 years old.
Yes, I mean, Street Sense Mare, Kitten's Joy should definitely appreciate the distance. I'm just not sure. I mean, obviously, these last 2 races are very good on the dirt here. I just don't know how good her turf form is. And with the fast pace, I was willing to go elsewhere. But if she continues that form from the dirt, maybe she's just getting better. I mean, it's been a long campaign for her. She hasn't gotten any time off since last year, April. So but she's running her best races now. So hopefully she can continue to show that form for you. Charlie, I'll go to you next, and I'll let you kind of talk into the 3 here. 2, anything you want to add with Smoky Eyes, but the 3 Stella Mars for Maker, second off the layoff, and switch to Mike Maker, I think, is my biggest angle for me.
Yeah, so briefly on Smoky Eyes, I just think second time back off the layoff, the horse should take another step forward. I like that they're, switching back to the turf where a lot of the strong numbers are. This horse, I agree with Noah with his point that, finishing second 4 times is certainly something to key in on for a horse that I believe will probably go off as the favorite, at the very least, be second choice. But again, I see a lot of consistency with this horse. And I think if this horse is ready, and I think Belmont will have the horse ready, is the one to beat. Going into the 3, I completely agree with you, Kyle. That's exactly what I keyed in on. I think getting Michael Maker is absolutely huge. I also like the blinkers going on. I think this horse could use that to maybe show a little more early speed. There's some really decent back numbers. If you look all the way back in July at Belmont, had that 82 and a hot pace where this horse was able to stay, forwardly enough to be right around there. And I think if this horse sits a nice stalking trip and can, as you touched on, take that step forward second time out, could be very solid in this race.
Yeah, and like I said, Maker's very, very good off of switching from other trainers. Naipaul Chatterpaul is a guy who runs a lot in New York. Not the best winning percentage trainer, smaller barn. Like you said, as of 11/25 here, he was 6 for 75 in the year, 8% winning trainer. So only 75 starts in a calendar year. But he has run very good races before. I mean, at Belmont last year in a starter allowance open company, I mean, he ran an 82, granted with a good trip, but I think he'd get another, and he hasn't really run into a fast pace since then. I think if the pace shapes up like it should, blinkers come on for Maker, and Lasix come back on as well. That if you're talking about that, these races, all these big races last year, I'm not the biggest Lasix guy, but have been all her biggest races have been run on Lasix. I know she's 6, but second off the layoff for Maker could be very, very good, a very good angle, and that's the one I'm going to try and key on with the number 3 Stella Mars. But I do agree with everything the guy said on Smoky Eyes. I think she could be the one to beat with the trip proposed by the time form. But guys, we'll keep moving along here. Pat, you talked about the 7. The number 5 is the Determined Lily for Trombetta, off the switch from Paul Schoenthal, guy who runs on the East Coast. So off the layoff for Trombetta, off the trainer switch. This horse is working fine. Noah, you have this horse in 3rd as well. Going to be a little bit closer to the pace, but I feel like this could be kind of that pocket trip type horse to get a really nice one.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you got her in 3rd as well. I think it's interesting that Trombetta, could have ran her in one of those races last weekend at Pimlico, but decides to opt for a spot. Maybe those spots filled up at Pimlico, but I think it's still a little bit of an aggressive spot. And I like the way she won last time. It was right on the lead, but she did it well, and I think she's getting better. So, like you said, I think if she's able to sit that pocket trip and she's improving, I think, somebody got to include.
And I just, like I said, it's a pretty aggressive spot, but there's no one really in the, I mean, mid 70s, high 70s could easily win this race. And coming into her 4-year-old year, I think Determined Lily could have all the chance in the world to improve. Might need one. I completely get it. That's why I have her in 3rd. But if she shows well here, could definitely be one to continue to improve, at least in allowance company for Trombetta in New York. Is that everyone? Oh no, Charlie has the 11 on top, even though he feels the need to leave again, I guess. I have no idea. Is that the number 11 Artemis girl? Or no, it's Saratoga Gaze. Again, we have no numbers. We have nothing around here. We're completely free balling it out here. This is a horse that, well, I'll let Tim talk about it. He's back now. McDonald's Wi-Fi. We want to talk about the 11?
If the government will let me and they'll stop trying to shut me out and cancel me. Yeah. So with the 11, I just thought this one was a little interesting in these sort of, weaker fields. A horse that is suddenly starting to find a lot of improvement at 6 years old, had that 77 last time out on the turf. Obviously, this one's only real method to victory is to kind of send and go. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I think this one, at the very least, could send enough to at least hang on to finish in the top 3 at a decent price. But again, I feel like in these fields where it's not horses that consistently win at any sort of high levels, that anything can sort of happen and people are very vulnerable. And I think this 11 could be a little interesting.
For me, if it's not the 2 or the 3, it could be many, many horses in this race. It depends on who's ready off layoffs and all of that stuff, who gets good trips from the outside posts, albeit at Aqueduct. This is on the very inner turf course. It's a pretty decent long run, a pretty decently long run up to the first turn. So post shouldn't care too much as long as the horse can slot in and get decent position. Looks to be a fast pace, so that's why a lot of us are towards the same horses. I'm going 3-2-5. Pat's going 2-7-3. Charlie's going 2-3-11. Noah's going 2-7-5. Guys, switching over to race number 9 here, and that is a claiming 12-5, going a 1-turn mile for 4 years old and up. Draws a field of 10 in this race, and this race is easily the hardest race in the entire sequence, at least for me, guys. As I switch over the picks right now, you see all 4 of us have different horses on top, so we'll basically just go round table at it. Pat,
no one has the 9-year-old. Damn it!
Oh, no one does. No one has. No, I'd have the 8-year-old if that's what you're asking.
All right, no age discrimination. I like it.
No age discrimination, right? Especially not in these 12-5 claimers. Anything can freaking happen in here. But Pat, you're to my right on the picks on the bottom, so I'll let you go next. Disappearance is a horse that's coming. As I switch over here, hold on. So a horse coming out of a turf race last time, didn't really take to it at all. Barrera is only 6%, but that 77 could easily win this race, and that was the same type of condition.
Exactly. That's this race, seems to be. I feel like the horses might not want to pass each other. This horse will be a closer, so it's going to have to. The problem is that I just think it's going to go turf to dirt. Trainer has not been bad doing that. This year, stat-wise, has not been good. But, I mean, the horse class-wise fits right in the spot. I mean, is only 4 years old, was purchased for $180,000. And, in a race that I just would like to price, I think this horse is going to be over 10-1. So I'm going to try and find a price with the 2 in here and hope can get the trip and, find a way in a race that is going to be interesting to say the least.
Interesting is a way I would definitely put it. Charlie, going to you next. Candy Tycoon, a horse that I have in 3rd. Patrick has in 2nd. So a lot of love from the panel on here. Rudy Rodriguez, Manny Franco, one that sits right behind. I'll put up the time for him just so you guys can kind of see how the race shapes out. But talk about what you like about the number 5.
Yeah, maybe it's just because of my roots with Arlington and then having to get used to Gulfstream summer racing. But for some reason, a race as bad as this, weirdly for me at least, I know this is going to end up looking terrible as a nice cold take, but for me, it was pretty easy to solve. I actually really like the 5 in this spot. I understand there's certainly a lot of concerns. I mean, the horse is 7 years old, and the last win was in 2022. So obviously, those are some major worrying signs. But I think this is a horse that's dropping down yet again in competition. One that, has ran against some decent horses at Gulfstream back in the day. I mean, lost by 4 lengths to Up to the Mark, lost to Octane, the Skipper 2, Steel Sunshine. So it's run against some much stronger horses than a lot of these other ones. And I just also think from a trip perspective, as, Pat was talking about, for horses that don't really, not like to pass or aren't really able to pass, I think this is one that could end up just sitting, a length off or a length and a half off like you showed in the time form and then just go by the initial speed setters. And I just don't really trust any of the closers to actually roll home. The question is obviously the horse being 7. What does the horse have left in the tank? But I think Candy Tycoon could be really interesting in this spot.
I mean, look, I have her in 3rd. The no win since 2022 does concern me. I'm sure Patrick took that into consideration as well when putting this horse in 2nd. Just not someone I can trust, but obviously Rudy knows how to train a winner. Not too worried about that. Obviously, the horse could set a really nice trip. Might have to stalk from the pace, and I'm not sure if the horse's best running is done off the pace. I think this horse would rather be on the pace in Candy Tycoon, but obviously could be one to be up there late, at least in the money. Noah, you're last up, my friend. The number 6, Funkenstein for David Jacobson, Ramon Vasquez, West Coast bias, sticking to his roots out there with Ramon Vasquez. Blinkers on. I mean, if this horse hits a trip, this horse makes all the sense also.
Yeah, this is definitely a race where I don't have as much confidence as Charlie, and I think he could make a case for a lot of horses. With that being said, at the level that these horses, run at, I think it's very rare that we see a horse like win 2 races in a row. So I'm going to excuse the effort last time. I feel like David Jacobson in these lower level races is a guy that's, if you trust him, you'll get paid. So I'm going to do that here. Before that win 2 back, you have to go all the way back to October of 2022, where he actually won an optional claiming race at none other than Santa Anita. So obviously I'm going to pick this horse on top. And I like the fact that he's got blinkers on because Pat made a good point in saying, at this level, these horses don't necessarily like to pass. But if with the blinkers on, I think Vasquez will have him a little more forward. And when you get to races like this, I think it's a lot easier to make up a length or length and a half than 4 or 5.
I mean, you can see this horse could set a really nice trip as long as he ends up breaking from the gate and getting out. I don't disagree with you by any means on fucking Stein. It was between the 5 and the 6 for me in third place. Either one of them even has a chance to win. A lot of people point out Matt Miller and TC Markham. 12 claimer that's made $534,000 lifetime. If you go back a little ways, this horse won first time out. Or no, why did that switch horses? That went all the way to the top. Gosh. And I got to go scroll through 8,000 years of Finger Lakes to get there too. This horse ended up. Is this the right? Yeah. So this horse was second in the Fountain of Youth. This was back in 2020, and then ran into Peter Pan, albeit. And then this horse was a very solid optional claiming, listed stake type horse in, even into 2023. I mean, this horse was running well at Gulfstream Park in their handicap stakes and optional claimers. So this horse has been, tried and true all the way through for Candy Tycoon. Just a matter of, he hasn't won anything, and now he's dropping all the way down, and David Jacobson's had him here, and he really hasn't done anything. All the way to the outside with Grandpa out here. Durkin's Call, fantastic name, as we touch on basically every time this horse runs. This horse is coming back, gets a little bit time off, ran back in 2 weeks, and just lost to Funkenstein, obviously. Actually, Linda Rice, now Wayne Potts takes over the training. That doesn't concern me one bit, that trainer switch. This is another horse that hasn't won necessarily recently, which makes me want to gravitate towards other horses, but could definitely be one. I mean, he's ran 64 times, for Christ's sake. This is just a horse that could get a really nice trip behind a lot of speed, what looks like in this race. Like I said, complete quick cap on my part, and I'll completely be honest with you guys. This is a horse that I would never have on top in this race. So again, at AP Roscoe K for Twitter, if you guys want to see my final picks, this is a horse I would never have on top. I mean, this horse is 0 for 12 and 23, 0 for 4, only 6 for 64 lifetime. This is a horse I would never have on top in any way, shape, or form. So I'll have to definitely switch that out. But I think second or third, this horse could definitely run in the money for sure. Obviously does very well at a mile. 77 makes way more than sense in this race. Could be one to definitely get in there, but it's not even diligent handicapping, TC Markham. It's the fact that these PPs came out 45 minutes before the show. I feel like that's the worst part about it. But yeah, the 12-5 as he touched. I mean, then you got to drop down here that I have in second, Skylander. No one else has anywhere. Just the buyer figures alone make a whole lot of sense in this race. I know this last race. I mean, Ben Duke. I mean, Super Chow, who just ended up winning last race. This is a complete drop, just a massive drop, which is obviously a really bad sign. But if this horse is anywhere near those 74, 78s, easily in the running to win this race. So at least 9 underneath could round out your exactas in this race. In these races, Tommy Gunn is a horse that was for Linda Rice that was pretty decent. Not really so much anymore. You see, really is kind of fallen off here. 26-44. Funkenstein, who we talked about, Candy Tycoon, who we talked about, Valenzen Day for Michelle Nevin was at a $40,000, lost by 11, but has numbers back for him to be able to win this race. Anything passable, 9-year-old, not running anywhere near even to win this race, I would take a pass on him. Disappearance is a horse that Patrick had on top, which I think would definitely be another look for me in this race, at least underneath. And Prince of Joy just looks slow on numbers as well, guys. So many different ways you can go. I think Matt just hit it on the head. Translation: low confidence race, reduce bets or skip accordingly, I think is a very good way to end this race, where a lot of us looked at it and then you look at other horses, you're like, that horse makes sense too. And you can do that for 7 horses in that race. I'll switch it up, but as of right now, I have 10-9-5. Patrick's going 2-5-8. Charlie's going 5-6-10, and Noah's going 6-10-4. As the air conditioning comes on in Noah's apartment, I'm just messing with him. You had to look up. Anyway, guys, let's keep it moving here. Race number 10 here, guys. Allowance 6 furlongs, 80,000. Another decent race. This is a turf sprint, but the long turf sprint going 6 furlongs at Aqueduct. Full field of 12 with an also eligible in there as well. New York breds. And like I said, the morning line favorite can be shared against so many horses here. And this was a very interesting thing that we came across. We all have the same top 2 horses in this race. We want to talk about low confidence versus what looks like high confidence. We all have 411. And Charlie, I'll go to you first here. There's one big thing that I'll show on the 4 here. I'm going to show this replay of this last race here that makes me want to pick this horse again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, what I keyed in on, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys did as well for me, is it just looked like the 4 had plenty of horse and just didn't really get a chance to show it.
And also,
Charlie,
real quick, just to point it out, there's 5 horses in this race running back here. You have the 6 Rusi, who's the 11, the number 2 Allied Attack in this race, which is the 1. So there's just a bunch of horses also coming out of this race that make a whole lot of sense. So, and who a lot of us like. So, sorry, Charlie, continue.
Yeah, so my main thing that I kind of keyed in on with the 4, which again, I'm assuming you guys did too, and this is why we preach to our fans the importance, if you can watch replays, to do so, is because if you just look and obviously see that this 4, took plenty of money and then, finished 5th by 4 lengths, that's something you'd be like, oh, this horse lost others. Okay, this horse just isn't good enough, maybe a money burner. But when you watch the replay, you see that the horse was loaded up and is just looking anywhere for space, never really had the chance to truly get rolling and get going. And then still finished, ahead of every horse that's running back in this field, except was like neck and neck with the 2. And then admittedly, the 6, who's the 11 in this field, obviously got the pretty big jump. But I personally believe, and I'm sure you guys would agree with me, that this one, with cleaner air could have gotten closer. And the other thing I'm keen in on is that was the first race back off a significant layoff, and the horse is working very forwardly. So I just think second time out, cleaner trip, lightly raced horse compared to some of these other ones. I think Big Prankster, by far, he has the most potential in this field to step forward.
I mean, Noah, Patrick, anything you guys want to add on Big Prankster? There's a lot of love in the chat for other horses. Rusi, Siggy Mendoza, man, what's up? Thanks for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. I also agree with that point that Rusi will get a good trip. I just think Big Prankster is a lot better than what he showed in that last race. Noah, Patrick, anything you want to add? And then feel free to go into Rusi.
I agree with everything said. I think, people that are good handicappers and see something like that, they're going to bet the shit out of this horse. So I think from a vertical perspective, maybe try to use some others. It's actually surprising that we all have the 11 in second, because I didn't think it was as obvious for second. But as we're going to see later, I think it's a good idea to try to use this horse in some horizontals, like some doubles or pick 3s, just because I think he'll get bet quite a bit. And I think a lot of people are going to see that, he had that trouble, second off, Rosario hops on. There's a lot of things I like about Big Prankster.
I don't disagree by any means. Rusi, Patrick, is a horse that makes a ton of sense as well. Siggy Mendoza points out, gets a nice setup, was also wide last time. Looks to be a pretty fast pace by time form standards. Like I said, just going to have to work out another good trip. And hopefully, like I said, our 4 we all have on top isn't the real deal, essentially.
Yeah, reiterate everything you said about Russi. Only other thing I'll say is, James Bond. He's the type of trainer
Harold
that
Bond.
likes
It's not James Bond. Harold
Jimmy
Bond.
James.
James.
He That's amazing. This is what a show. He points to Saratoga. His main barn is up there, so he likes to run these horses to get them to Saratoga. So I think this is going to be a perfect setup race for this horse, who is a quality horse. I mean,
Yeah.
it's running in all state bred races, and was you look at his morning lines when he on debut at Aqueduct, he was all 20-1, above that, and then gets to Saratoga and everybody starts betting the horse in state bred races because they know what the trainer likes to do. So I think this horse is going to be keyed in a good spot on Saturday.
I don't disagree with you by any means. Charlie, you have Power Attack, who's getting love from TC Markham. He said single in the chat. I'm going to have to contend with some pace pressure here, especially from his inside, which is the thing that I don't necessarily like, and from his outside as well. But TC Markham loves Power Attack. Charlie, what do you love? What do you like? Obviously, you have the horse in third, so you think he's interesting, not necessarily on top, but at least interesting to at least hold on for a placing.
Well, I just think this is a very interesting horse because, they've tried it in a bunch of different races ever since ran in the Futurity, ran against Webslinger when they were trying to have this horse going a mile, then cut all the way back, runs, obviously a nice race at Gulfstream to win, and then comes back after that and runs at Belmont and gets the job done and holds on. I just think the horse is fast enough to at the very least be one of those setting the tone and can stay up there in the top three. The only concern I would have, kind of pushing back about potentially like over betting this horse or singling this horse, is at least for me when I watch the replay, maybe it's because it was the good turf. But obviously this horse set some pretty fast fractions that were impressive. But it also kind of looked like the field kind of just got stuck. Like everybody was just like the horses up that caught up to Power Tech were kind of just hanging. And maybe that was because of that good turf that they just couldn't get that same opportunity to just dig in and actually go by. And so that would be my one big concern is, now running back in that distance on ideally a firm turf. Will the horses still have the same inability to actually get by? That's how it looked like to me. No one was truly rolling. They kind of just all got stuck there and the horse held on. But, if I'm wrong and it wasn't just about the turf and Power Attack runs back to an effort like that, this horse certainly could be dangerous in this spot.
Yeah, and then it at least gets the setup. I just think this horse might be a need the lead type of horse. And if the one's going to be that fast, I would much rather have someone coming from the back than the three trying to rate or just sit off of a pace. Noah, you have the one last horse we'll talk about and move on. Allied Attack coming out of that same race, a horse that loves to be on the lead. It's very, very fast and looks to have the lead, especially with the blinkers on now for Maker.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit. I wasn't, in love with the 5. I was really not in love with the race last time, as we just showed, just because it looked like they kind of just ran around the track. Nobody really moved. And I think Allied Attack might be faster, especially with the blinkers on, draws the rail. I think Irad's got to go from there. And it looks like when the horse does that, it's giving him the best chance. But if you are a backer of the 5, somebody in the chat really liked the 5. I think it was TC Markham. I think the one benefit there is you're outside of the other speed. So even though, Power Attack hasn't necessarily shown the ability to sit, if Carmouche is able to just kind of sit right off from that outside, I think being inside makes it a little tougher. So if this horse can sit, we haven't seen it yet, but I think that's going to give him the best chance to win.
I don't disagree with you. It's just he's got to have to go. And if Irad gets aboard, blinkers on, I think this horse has a chance. Just going to have to really work out a trip with a lot of horses. They're going to want to go for the lead. Like I said, with the 3 Power Attack, I don't see him anywhere else but on the lead. And if Allied Attack's going to be that much faster, Power Attack's going to have to chase. And that's where I really don't end up liking him in this race. We'll move on to the last race, guys. Last race is another doozy. I'm going 4-11-1. Pat's going 4-11-7. Charlie's going 4-11-3. Noah's also going 4-11-1 with me. Guys, let's switch over to the last race here. And it's a maiden 40 on the turf, again, going a mile and a 16th. It's a full field of 12 with 4 also eligibles, guys. There's so many different ways you can go in this race here. but we all are pretty, we're pretty similar. Two of us have the 11, two of us have the 5. I have the 11 in second. So there's just a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can go, but not necessarily by our standards. I'll let you guys talk first. Pat, if you want to talk first. Number 11, Frozen 4. Fantastic name for Rosario Clement. Rosario picks up the mount for Clement, excuse me. But what'd you like most about the number 11, Frozen 4?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the Frozen Four for the NHL. Well, I mean, the Final Four. But this horse, is going to drop down again. Was running maiden special weights, was struggling, just really no excuses in any of those spots, and then wasn't bet last time out, and now is off a big layoff, but has been working consistently. I wouldn't say the works have been fantastic, but been working consistently, and in a spot where he's going to get Lasix for the first time, I'm going to give this horse a chance because I just look around here and the buyer speech figures. This horse, if this horse can just improve, a little bit. The only other horse that I think really, is somewhat competitive is the 5. So I don't know. I'm gonna try the 11, but if when I'm playing the pick 5, let's say this race is going to be another spread. I'm going to be thin early, spread late, and my odds are this is carrying over, especially the pick 6. This sequence is tough.
Yeah, and no, I'll go to you next. You also have the 11 on top. This is a horse that, first time gelding, first time Lasix. There's many different. If you're that type of person, first off the layoff, Clement does very well off layoffs. Just anything you want to add with Frozen 4, and then feel free to go into the 10 who you have in second, and then you can, if you want to touch on or put past to us for the 5, you can.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Pat said. Clement off a layoff like this, in a race like this, these maiden 40s, I'm just looking for horses that are dropping in class. We've said it before, drop from maiden special weight to maiden claiming is the biggest drop in class in horse racing. And if you just look at that last race, granted it was, back at the beginning of November, I mean, he was in 10th, over 5 back, and they ran 23-3 the first quarter and then 50 to the half. So they really slowed it down, and he was up against it. And it looks like he was in a decent race. The second place horse came back and won. So I'm in agreement with a lot of you guys. I think this one's interesting. Maybe one you can key on in a race that's a little more wide open than some others.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you by any means. Charlie, we have the number 5 on top, which is Jersh, I think it might be how you say that name. That's a fun one for sure. Grand Motion, Manny Franco taking a drop from Tampa into this race. Again, not the best fields, but is taking a drop into coming back to State Bred Company on the turf where he's run pretty competitive speak figures as well.
Yeah, the reason I keyed in on this horse, and I actually really like this one, is I really enjoyed the effort 2 back. Ran against Vingar. Tempest is a horse that I've had a long and frustrating history with. But I thought that effort at 20-1 was very impressive. And I kind of felt, maybe this horse could build off that effort. And obviously next time out at Tampa, the public felt the same way, dropping down after, in my opinion, even though the figure doesn't show a career best effort, and then just couldn't quite get it done. And to me, I just think, again, you see obviously this horse and the 2 efforts on good turf were really, really bad. So for me, maybe I think it's just this horse wants to be on firm turf. And obviously that effort 2 back was the lone effort this one has gotten on first turf. And that was, firm turf. And that was, again, the best career effort. So I think the surface plays well and the weather doesn't mess it up. I think the 5 is very live in this spot and is, to me, at least the horse that in my eyes has the most potential to take a step forward. And I also think could sit a nice trip. I think some of these other horses that we've talked about and that are interesting don't exactly have much of, if any, early speed at all, and are going to have to close pretty heavily. And at least this one should, in theory, be able to sit a nice stalking trip.
Yeah, and obviously Time Form doesn't have the main because it is a maiden race, but the 5 should sit a pretty good trip behind the speed. I agree with you in that regard for sure. Just real quick, guys, going across a few others. The number 3 is Your Mission, I believe, who we have to a lot of us have underneath. Pat, Charlie, and I have this horse in 3rd. Again, competitive speed figures. Just give me one coming from the clouds and coming off the training from Jorge Abreu and Todd Pletcher. Now this horse goes to Juan Bernardini. Hopefully he runs like his namesake, because if not, this horse is going to have a little bit 0 for 18 so far in 2024, but does pick up Castellano, which could be a nice break, but is going to have to sit at a trip where he can work out. But I think at least underneath might be worth the throw in your trifectas and superfectas, because at least this horse always gives his best run. And then the last horse that Noah has, Noah has Jersh, and then the 10, which I don't remember if he touched on or not, but in my shadow, Carlos Martin. Best races by far on the turf. Again, another one that's going to come from a little bit farther back, but hopefully that horse can run late. As
Kyle, I screwed that one up. That's a co-host fail. That's supposed to be the 12.
Oh my god, dude!
And we
you
also
can't
didn't
be doing
talk about
that to me.
also host Phil. I didn't get to talk about my 9 real quick.
I don't care. Didn't ask. Either way, Frozen Judge. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Rudy gets Pratt aboard. Could be switching over. You know, Charlie, please, you have the floor, my friend. Impulsive spending.
Thank you. Yeah, impulsive spending is interesting to me. Obviously, the layoff's a question, the ability's a question, but they put the horse on the turf going a mile to 16th. It's the first time they've tried a distance race on turf. Was by far and away the best effort of this horse's career. Finished 5th by 4 lengths at a very short price of 105 to 1. So, maybe this one off the layoff can be ready. At the very least, though, is going back to the surface and distance that actually impulsive spending ran somewhat decent on in a race like this. I don't think the horse is impossible.
I don't disagree with you either, Charlie, by any means. Just there's so many different ways you can go in this race, guys. It just these $40,000 claimers, if it's not the 5 or the 11 guys, it could be a lot of horses. Again, I said that in the 9th race, and I said that now. It just a lot of stuff can happen. Guys, let's go over best bets here, and then we'll end this show. Charlie, I have you first up on the chopping block as you were the last one to give him the picks. So race number 7, guys, a double 1-2 into the 2, and race number 9, an exacta 5 over 610. Charlie, talk about your best bets.
Yeah, so unfortunately, my Wi-Fi wouldn't let me talk about race 7, so I'll do it here. I thought Noah did a good job as we had the same top 3. Look, Legend of Time was obviously a horse we were all over at the time. The quick turnaround will be the question, but I think the setup will be nice. I think the distance won't be a problem at all, and I think maybe the horse was just off in that last race. Was one that I'm willing to, potentially draw a line. And we talk about sometimes these horses when they make their first start in America that, they sometimes need one and it doesn't go well. So I think second time out could be dangerous, but White Palomino is a horse that I thought was really interesting on debut, but as Noah touched on, runs a little funky and had some trouble. And then second time out looked much better. I think we'll absolutely love the distance again and gets Pratt aboard and you can get a nice price. Going into the 2, I won't say much because we talked about Smoky Eyes a lot, but I just think that one could be the horse to beat. And I would maybe back myself up with a win bet or something on the 3 in that race, the maker horse that you and I both like, Kyle. And then going into race 10, race 9, I know this one's obviously wide open, but didn't want to do a turf sprint best bet in the last race is a disaster. So I went with this race. Again, I think Candy Tycoon, obviously the question is the horse is old and is, regressing, but has still run some really quality races in its heyday and has still had some decent efforts, though obviously hasn't been a long time since the horse has won, but if the horse is ready, should get it done. And put the 6 and 10 underneath, who are 2 horses that have just been, steady that we've all had somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you by any means. Race 9, that's the claiming 12-5. I love the confidence, man. Good luck with your best bets. Noah, you right here, race number 7, exacta 2 over 1-3. In race 10, I assumed it was a double because you didn't put what bet it was, but singling the 4, I see it now with Dutching it, I'm sure, with 5, 10, 11.
Yeah, that's co-host field number 2. But going to race 7, I'm going to key in exacta with Legend of Time, and then I'm going to use one of the Chads. I think they might get a little overlooked just because they got perfect trips, and I'm going to try to get Triple Espresso out of there. And then fast forward to race 10, starting a double with that Clement horse that had the trouble that we've all got on top, which now we've all got on top, so probably can't win. But I'm going to start a double with that horse, and then going into the last race, I'm just going with the 3 horses, the 3 best horses I think in the race, all dropping from special weights, Maiden claiming. So those are my 2 best bets.
Look, I mean, like I said, I think the 4 is much the best. Looks much the best to beat in that race. And then, like you said, you're taking the 3 logicals in race 11. No matter which way you go in that race, we talk about it, you're going to get pretty good value in there.
Oh, that's Cohost
yeah,
number
five,
3.
three.
That's
Strike
supposed to
3,
be
you're
5.
out. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. It's 5, 11, 12. But strike 3.
I'll see you guys
Yep.
next Wednesday.
And he's out for the day. 5, 11, 12. 4 over 5, 11, 12, not 5, 10, 12. Or 5, 10, 11, as he changed it after we talked about that race while we were talking. So, Noah, good luck with your best bets. Pat, you didn't give me them beforehand, but do you have best bets you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. First one's going to be a win bet on triple espresso in the stake. I think that horse is going to be very good, and it's just going to improve again on going back to the turf. And then in the finale, I really like the Jimmy Bond horse, Harold Bond. I'll work on that later. I think that horse is going to be fit just well in there. So I'll put a win bet on that horse if I can get decent odds. I have a feeling that horse is going to get bet down tremendously.
Yeah, and we were talking about how, like you said, how Harold Bond gets bet down at Saratoga, and we're talking about, but it is a tough race. There's a lot of different ways you can go, so you might get a decent price, at least for a win bet. Pat, good luck with your best bets. And mine were pretty solidified from the start, guys. Race 7 in the Pennine Ridge. I think of Legend of Time 1 as, if any, fresh off of that race 3 weeks ago. And with the setup this horse looks to get on the front end, the Legend of Time should win. And I say should because we've seen dumber things, and we saw it on I Like the Horse on Derby Day. Ran completely flat. But if this horse just runs with the setup, I think he should win. And with the other horses that we talked about in race 8 being the 2 Smoky Eyes and the 3 Stella Mars, I think if it's not those 2 horses, it could be anybody. So I'm gonna stand on that opinion right now, right there in race number 8, 2 over 2, 3 for that double. Of course, Dutch in race number 10. I talked about it. Win on the number 4, Big Prankster. The Trouble could have easily gotten in the money if not won that last race. I think makes a ton of sense as long as he can continue to improve in that race. But guys, that'll wrap up episode number 80 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. But guys, don't forget, we have a special Memorial Day episode for you guys coming on Friday afternoon, a little happy hour show for you guys. If you guys can't be there on Friday with work and whatever, we completely understand. Watch it as a replay. It'll be up all the way through the weekend, of course. And on Monday at Santa Anita with 2 Grade 1 races, that being the Hollywood Gold Cup and the Gamely Stakes. Is that correct, West Coast Bias?
Yeah, if you guys aren't there on Friday, you're dead to me. So watch it on Friday.
Well, I'll see you there, hopefully, then, if you're going to talk like that. But, yeah, Friday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. We're going to cover the Memorial Day card at Santa Anita, again, with 2 Grade 1s and a Grade 2. It's fantastic racing on the West Coast. If you guys can be there, great. If not, please watch it as a replay. And, of course, leave a like on that video as well. And while you're at it, be here for Picks and Ponies tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, as they're also covering Santa Anita, but they're covering Saturday at Santa Anita for a big Calbred Stakes Day. I believe 5 stakes on the card for that one. But for my co-hosts, Noah Maher, Patrick Kunsel, and Charlie Freeman, this has been Kyle Roscoe in episode 80 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.